Welcome to the PokeMitchell Podcast TV, man. Special edition today. Special show today. I'm out here, reminiscing about my mentor. Special edition of the PokeMitchell Podcast TV. Due to a lot of the things that's going on today, man. Especially when it pertains to my black folk and us coming together. Us making a difference. For our own culture. I thought that it would be a blessing today to talk about, my mentors, man. A couple of my mentors, man. People that actually, that God put in my life. For change, for direction, and to see things as a man should be seeing things as he live and grow in this world. One of the people that God put in my life is August Hunter, man. AKA Big Dog from Rolling 20s, Long Beach Crip. Dog was very instrumental in my change. God put that man in my life. At the time, before I met August, I was in prison. Doing a 25 to life bid, 3-striker. They struck me out for a non-violent crime. It was a law that got put into effect based on the prison system letting a pedophile child killer out, and they let this guy out, and he's a white guy, let him out, and he decided to break into this house and rape and kill a little white girl named Polly Class. And her family, which was they was a staunch supporter after the death of their family member of the 3 strikes law. But they thought that the 3 strikes law would, once it got put on the books, that it would stop people from getting out of jail, or to keep them in jail longer or forever, for that matter, as far as the pedophiles go. And they didn't know, the family didn't know that when the 3 strikes law got put on the books, that it would take down a culture of people. Though it was pointed toward pedophiles, people that did crimes on kids, they took advantage of that law to get a lot of gang members off the streets. Black, Latino, poor whites, Asians, a lot of minorities that they took advantage of and got them off the streets based on the 3 strikes law. So I was doing time, and on that 25 to life, I had got caught with, some marijuana. And they decided that I should get a 25 to life based on the fact that I had marijuana on. And it wasn't enough for them to name me the El Chapo of LA, you know. Like I said, it was just a pound of weed. And it was a real valiant effort by the system and LAPD to take the gang members off the streets. And so I ended up getting that 25 to life. Wasn't nothing you could do. Once after that law had came into effect, it was automatic 25 to life. You were not going to beat that charge. And so a lot of people had admitted to the charges, especially if it was a nonviolent crime that was committed, you know. And so during the time that I got found guilty and was on my way to the penitentiary, you know, I did 17 years off that 25 to life. You know, for the first 12 years, I was on one, man. I couldn't believe that I was doing a life sentence for weed. And I just felt like that there was nothing else left for me to do but just to act a fool. And so that's what I did for 12 years. You know, I just stayed on my soldier stuff, man. You know, penitentiary stuff, man. And it was all the way up until the point to where I had was in Corcoran, the old Corcoran, in 2000, and this happened around 2005. I was in the old Corcoran, and kites got dropped on me and some of my comrades, and they ended up putting us in the hole. And because I was in the hole, my points had dropped, and so they sent me to Ironwood. Ironwood was like, it wasn't too much different from a level 4. It was like a level 4, level 3. So once I got down to Ironwood, still on that bull crap, I ended up catching a stabbing down there. And from that point, I got caught, stabbed a dude like 10 times. And they caught me with the knife and everything. And so once I got back there in the hole, and as I went back there to the hole, and I was on the crip yard at the time, all the homies was saying, man, the only way you're gonna beat that is you gotta play crazy, man. You gotta play crazy. And I hear a lot of people talk about, you know, these EOP programs, Triple C programs, or whatever, right? And you know, I had no idea of what the Triple C program was really about at the time. But you know, being that I was in there for, you know, doing a 25 to life for a non-violent crime, they were also striking. It was a lot of inmates that were catching their third strike while in prison for violence, physical things that took place in prison. So, you know, I said, man, dang, you know, I had you know, people working on me getting out, and you know, here it is. I just, you know, just did some some crazy stuff, man. Was involved in some crazy stuff, man. In this stabbing, right? And so I said, man, you know what? I'm gonna do what I gotta do, man. You know what I'm saying? And so, I ended up talking to the psychiatrist, and from me talking to the psychiatrist, that put my stabbing charge on hold, and they sent me to Donovan State Prison. And once I got there, I began to and got out the hole. I began the program there, and I was still in search of my life. As hard as it is to understand when doing time and going through things, man. I was at a time in doing time that things were just starting to hit me different, and I ended up on the yard with my big homie, Big Wicked from Marvin. Me and Big Wicked became cellies. I told this celly he had to go, so I can be in there with my big homie. And so, that took place. Me and Big Wick was in the cell together, Big Unk, and I was still functioning with the young homies on the yard, the young gangsters, and they were some solid little youngsters. They just didn't have no direction, man. And I happened to be out there with them, and one day they had a meeting and said that they wanted me to to have the keys to the gangster car, because I was messing with them on the yard, and I had told Wicked, and Wicked was like, man, nah, Poke, they ain't on your level, man. Leave them alone, man. They gonna tell on you or whatever. I said, nah, man, they straight. They just need some direction. And we had that meeting, and I proceeded to to have the keys to the car, man, and direct them the best way that I could, man. And so while that was taking place, the church on the yard used to be a place where we would go and get it in, man. A lot of discipline took place in the church. We would go to the church bathroom and get it in, so we wouldn't have to get caught for disciplining somebody on the yard. And it was one time where I went to I went to go discipline one of the gangster homies in the bathroom, and I'm in the bathroom. The homie come in the bathroom. I'm about to get at him, and next thing I know, the door opened, and this big old giant looking at me. This big old giant brother looking at me. He say, man, you can't do, man, what you finna do, man? You can't do that in the church, man. He like, man, this the church, bro. And I looked at him like, like, man, don't be telling me, you can't tell me what to do. But the person was August Hunter, big dog. August was the pastor on that yard. He used to come in from the streets, and he would join in ministering with us, and having church with us on the yard, having church with the people on the yard. And at the time, like I say, I was still on my bull crap, man. And it was one of my uncle's partners was right on the side of August when he was telling me that that I can't be fighting in the church. And I seen Pee Wee kind of like hit August by the elbow with the elbow, and he say, man, August, leave that one right there alone. He got all them youngsters running behind him. You know what I'm saying? And so when Pee Wee said that to August, he looked at me and was just like, man, you can't do that in the church. And I kind of just I chose to respect him and just handle it on different terms, in a different way. And so that was me and August's first introduction to each other, man, where I had brought a homie up in the church to the discipliner, man. And so that whole time I was on the yard at that time, I was making knives for the homies, just trying to be a good leader, man. You know what I'm saying? Because these dudes trusted in me, man, and so I just tried to be a good leader, man, to them. And so it was a time where I got caught making knives on the yard, and so they gaffled me up, sent me to the hole, and I had been back there in the hole for probably like about 9 months. I did back there in the hole, fighting the knife case, whatever, and it was different. I've been going, I had been going to the whole time I've been doing time. I'm always touching the hole, just being a frontliner type of guy, and taking the fight right on. I happened to be, the hole was like another home for me. And so, but it was different this time when I was in the hole. I was in the hole, and my daughter, me and my daughter wrote each other a lot. I used to, one of the things that I hated, going to jail and getting this time and going to jail is that, I didn't want to be known as a deadbeat, and I didn't grow up around that kind of lifestyle where, it was a lot of love that came from my family, a lot of love that came from my friends. So, me having my own kid, oh man, I didn't have nothing but love to give. So, I was getting letters from my daughter at the time, and my daughter had graduated from high school, so she sent me a letter, and soon as I opened the letter up, it was a copy of her graduation certificate, and I look at it, I'm like, dang man, my baby done graduated, and it's like, open up the letter, and I mean, like, right off the top, man, she was like, Daddy. The first thing that the letter said was, Daddy, we did it. And I was having a hard time with the we, but the next line had said, I know you probably think that you didn't have anything to do with me graduating, but all those countless letters that you used to write me helped me through. And if it wasn't nothing that I did, right in my life, I was gonna make sure that my daughter knew everything, if I had to put it in a letter. And so, man, it touched me, man. It opened my heart in a whole different way. At the time, it was it was a pastor that used to come in the hole, and he would always drop these Christian pamphlets through the door, and I would always pick them up. Got so much time in the hole, I did a lot of reading and writing when I was in the hole, and I would read the pamphlets, and I would place them to the side. What I didn't know, each time that I took on reading those Christian pamphlets, that God was dealing with my heart. And man, I knew then, because of the letter that my daughter wrote, she was like, Daddy, why are you always in the hole? You don't want to be out here with me? And I'm like, dang, that's, for the first time it hit me, it just hit me different, man. You know what I'm saying? Where I was like, man, what am I actually doing to help my situation? What am I actually doing to help me grow in here? And so, I wanted to talk to the pastor, the guy that was passing out these pamphlets every week in the hole. I wanted to have a conversation with him. Now, everybody knew who was who in the hole. At the time, I was like, how am I going to talk to this pastor? How am I going to talk to this pastor guy? And And without people in the hole seeing this fool at my door. I was just going through my own little stuff, man. So the next time he came, I said, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna get up early in the morning. I'm gonna work out, and I'm gonna be waiting on him to come to the door, and I'm gonna ask him a question. And so I was, that day come, I was working out, having a good workout, man. But the whole time I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna ask this guy, man, about God, man. The question that I had, and he come to the door. He slide the pamphlet through. I run to the door. Hey, excuse me, can I ask you? Can I talk to you for a minute? He come back to the door. He look at me. I look at him. I'm sweating. I'm drenched. I said, I got a question for you. He was like, what is it? I said, who is Jesus? And me asking him who was Jesus started a conversation that I had with that man from that time until I got out. But like I said, my heart was open, and God was just putting all the things that I needed to push me forward. And so when I finally got out, well, before I got out, so I had enough information that I needed to better myself as far as me choosing God to work in my life. I had known God up until that point. So I remember getting on my knees one day in the hole. I got on my knees and I said, God, if you a real God, if you real, then when I get out this hole, I'm gonna go up in that church. But if anybody say anything to me, God, if you God, then you know me. If anybody say anything to me, I'm gonna stab them. But I said, if you real, then you'll keep all that stuff away from me so that I can concentrate on you. And that's exactly what God did. When I got out the hole, there was a lot of brothers on the yard, a lot of Crips that came and got at me, glad you out the hole, and so and so. One of the things that had happened while I was in the hole, the knives that I had made, for the homies, they ended up getting into it with the others, and they stabbed the others up, man. So when I got out, they had sent all my, my young riders, they had sent them on their ways to other prisons. But everything just seemed different, man. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know how I was gonna walk in that church, man. I remember when I got out the hole, putting my stuff in the cell, and then coming right out and jumping on the bars and just looking at the church and just wondering how I'm gonna walk over there and go in there. I didn't know how I was gonna do that. And let me tell you something, man. When you decide to trust in God, He works immediately in your life. I'm sitting there wondering how I'm gonna get in this church, and God, next thing I know, I see one of the Christian brothers coming out the church and walking straight toward the bars, the weight pile. And I'm like, something just made me look at him. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at him, and it looked like he's coming toward me. So I'm taking a couple steps forward, taking a couple steps back, and just to see if he's coming toward me. And as I'm taking them steps back and forth, he's zigzagging with me as he come with me. So I said, man, this dude coming toward me. So I get on the bar. Before he get all the way to me, he holler, hey, hey, Poke. He called me by my, by my street name, Poke. And I'm looking. It's like a Mexican Christian dude. And I'm like, yeah. So he comes and walks up, man, and he says, August, the pastor, asked me to come and tell you he wants to talk to you if you can come by the church. Hey, look, I don't even remember. I remember walking there, but it was like I was on a cloud, just moving toward as I was walking toward the church. And once I got in there, August was in there with a couple of the church fellas, and he leaned back I went in his office and he leaned back in his chair and he like, Pope, what up, Pope? And I'm like, what's up, August? Does everybody on the yard knew that August, was an OG out of the Long Beach 20s, and that he was solid. His reputation on the streets, it was a solid reputation. And so August, he said, man, you finally out that hole, man. You know what I'm saying? You how you feel? You all right? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm all right. He was like, man, we about to do Kairos. Kairos was a program that changed my life, man. That God put in front of me, put these good people in my life, man. When God put people in your life, man, only good stuff come from it, man. If God put them in your life because of the good things that happen, going forward. And so this Kairos program, Kairos meant I think it was a Greek word that meant love. And so it was a program. It was like a 3-day retreat that it was like about 70 inmates that would spend 3 days in the church. They would only go back to their cells late at night, but they would be in the church for 3 days all day, and they would just go back to their cell. They would count in church. They would count the inmates that were there in church, and the yard recall, they would send the inmates back to their cell, and then the next day they would call the same people in the morning back over there. It was a 3-day retreat, and one of the things that Kairos did, the Kairos program did, they would come and their wives, the men's wives, would bake cookies, and they would give them to the inmates that were in the program, and they would tell the inmates in the program to give cookies out to the people on the yard. Teaching people how to be, try to understand, receiving more, giving more, peace, forgiveness. It was just a lot of things accumulated into, helping you, build your character, man, the right way. And so, they would always tell you to give the cookies to people that you don't like. You know what I'm saying? And for the most part, people did that, man. So when he asked me, August asked me, he like, man, you want to get in this Kairos program? I was like, yeah. And so he was like, man, August had Brewster. You know what I'm saying? Brewster was August's right-hand man at the time. Had him take somebody off the list and put me on. And at the time, and that was the best thing that could ever had happened to me in my life, man. You know what I'm saying? Growing up, man, we play a big part in each other's destruction, man. And teaching each other the wrong things, how to do the wrong things in life. Not never really having the right backing, to teach you the right things in life. Even, teaching you, how to be the best, person that you can be, man. And so here it is, man. I ended up going into that program, man, in August. Ended up being the reason, for me getting in that program. And I remember the first day that I went to that program, the Kairos program, and the group that I was in, I remember being there, and they would give you this piece of paper for you to write your name and where you was from, or what city or whatever you was from or whatever, and why were you in the program. And I remember when it came to me, I told them my name, but I was like, I'm just here for the cookies. You know what I'm saying? But I was really there trying to see if God was real in my life, seeing if God was really real, and so I remember the guys after we doing all that, and I remember the guys getting around me and praying for me, and man, they prayed, they put their hands around me, man. They was like, what you want us to pray for? I didn't know what to tell them. I didn't know what to tell them to pray for, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy, man, when you think about it, not knowing what to tell somebody to pray for you in your life. And they just start praying. They just start praying for me, man. And like my heart was still, it was still open. And I don't know, something just came over me, man, and I just broke down. And I was kind of mad at myself for crying, for breaking down like that. But it was a good thing for me, man. You know what I'm saying? Because the love, I felt real love from these people, man. People that I didn't know, even some of the inmates that I didn't know. I just felt like everything was genuine, man. And it was from that day forward that I began to work on myself, man. And God began to work in my life. And me and August Hunter, became like best friends. I believe that God put that man in my life for me to be the best me. And certain things just started to happen in my life, man. I didn't even my mind wasn't even on me getting out. I was so my concentration was based on me knowing who God is for me. And that's the school that God had placed in front of me for me to know who he was in my life. And he put some good people in my life, man. Ross Provenzano, and Ross was Catholic. Is Catholic. I call him Unc. This is Ross's foundation, Rise Up Industries. Man, Ross and his family, I love them to death, man. They good people. Up until that point, I never had a white person that had been in my life as a friend or anything for that matter. Ross being Italian, and shout out to shout out to my Catholic brothers, because it was a lot of Catholics around me at that time, and it tripped me out because they did not care about my past. They just cared about the person that was in front of them. And, they was able to see my heart. And those guys mentored me, man. God put them guys in my life, man. Jason, Pastor Jason, was another mentor of mine that God put in my life at that time. Certain gifts was starting to sprout up. I became I played the the drums, the beatbox, and the choir, and all I just cared about doing, all I wanted to do, man, was just good things, man. I just wanted to just let God continue to work in my life, man, and just try to be and just allow it to happen. And like I said, August Hunter, man, became my closest friend, my big bro, my pastor, everything, man. At the time I wasn't getting any packages, anything from family, anything like that. August made sure that I not only got a package, but I would get 2 packages a month from him. He God put that man in my life to guide me the right way. I miss August, man. August, after I got out, I ended up getting out in 2014. And August came and picked me up the next day I got out. I got out, and he took me downtown Long Beach, man, and bought me some suits. And we started to go on our church campaign, and I started to tell my testimony in some of those churches. And August was special, man. I mean, for the people in Long Beach that know him, probably know him better than me. They know that was a good man. That was one of they real ones, man. And that loss for me was felt. He died maybe 3 or 4 years after I got out, and I remember Jason calling me, and me answering the phone, and me just talking to him, and then I think he kind of knew that I probably didn't know that August had passed away, and he was like, "Mitch, have you heard about August?" And I was like, "Nah, I ain't heard nothing about August. I haven't talked to him in a minute." He said, "Man, August passed away." And it was like, I was so messed up off of that, man, because I had to find my own way after I had been out. I had to find my own way. You know what I'm saying? And me and August hadn't talked for a minute before, in the process of me finding my own way, and it just hurt so bad, man. It hurt so bad, and I thank God for me being able to to get that message and making it to his funeral. And I sat in the front row when I went to that funeral, and man, I cried hard, man. I cried hard because this was the man that God put in my life for me to know how good he is, and to learn as much as I can from August about my Lord and Savior. And it was like, when I got up to see him in the casket, the tears had calmed all the way down. Because August looked good. He didn't look bad at all. You know, I heard stories about August back in the days, how he used to be knocking dudes out, going in their pockets. You know what I'm saying? He had that bully reputation a little bit. But man, he was a gentle giant, man. About time I met him. And God was using that man in a big way. He affected my life in a good way. You know, mentors are very important, man. Let me tell you why. Because people don't want to change. When you're not chasing the things in life that'll have you grow in a certain way, to where you're able to become that man. You're able to be, if God bless you in that way, be a father in your kid's life. You know, be somebody, man, that if people need that support, that you able to give it to them. You know, I feel like, black people are some of the most compassionate people in the world. You know, I remember growing up in my neighborhood before cocaine really came out in my neighborhood and destroyed it. Like, the love was so real. You know, the kids loved the elders, and the elders loved the kids. And, when I got older and I was able to see how the cocaine did some of the people that I looked up to, I learned to have compassion for them people. I don't blame them people for anything when it comes to teaching me the right way. They didn't put cocaine in our neighborhoods. That came from that was on a whole different level of the game, of trying to, not trying, but destroying people, destroying the culture. If you ain't working on yourself at this time in your life, man, then you're gonna be that percentage of people that's not gonna make it. You're not gonna make it. We need to allow ourselves to be mentored. The old and the young. God should be respected, man. You know what I'm saying? That's it, and that's all, man. God should be respected, man. I want to thank him for being a part of my life and always guiding me the right way. I want to thank him for always putting the right people in my life to help me be a better person. It's all good. Hey, y'all. PokeMitchell love y'all, man. PokeMitchell love y'all, man. Hey, shout out to Ross Provenzano. I love you. August, Hunter, rest in peace. I miss you, man.